Let's make one thing clear here. You want the weapons that are spawning on your NPCs from the level list going from this to this. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's get into it. Alright, so there are a couple steps to this process. I'm going to go pretty slow for you new users. You do need Xedit and you do need a weapon mod. And I'm going to make this as seamless as possible so anybody can do it, even if you have very little experience with Xedit and you're not a modder and you don't know what you're doing, that's okay. You can still do this. It takes a little bit of effort and a good bit of time, but so start by opening your mod manager. I use Mod Organizer too. You don't have to use Mod Organizer too, but you can if you want to. I would highly recommend it. And in your mod organizer, you're going to launch your Fallout 4 edit. Make sure that you have a weapon mod installed. For this example, I'm going to be using the MP5 complex. Go ahead and launch your Fallout 4 Xedit. Now, and once we're in Xedit, we're going to deselect everything. So right-click on this pop-up, this module selection, and select none. And then you want to find your weapon mod. If you're scrolling through the list and you're finding it, it's actually kind of hard to find your mod, or maybe it's actually named differently inside of here. You can come up to the filter here and type what you're looking for. So I'm looking for an MP5. And look at that. It's right there. So once you've enabled it and you've enabled all of the guns that you want to add random attachments to, so I only want to add the MP5, which is right here. Everything else is deselected. You can click OK. Alrighty, so now that Xedit has loaded and everything's good to go, we're going to start by going over to our weapon mod. Mine's the MP5. Expand that by hitting that little plus button right there, and then come all the way down to the weapons category. The weapons category is typically at the very bottom. We're going to expand that weapon category, and right here we're going to see two different weapon records. In this case, there's an MP5 and there's an MP5K. Just take the basic one normally in 99% of all cases because these are typically special variants. The first one is typically the bland one with a standard set of attachments, and the second one is typically with a bunch of different attachments, or it has a different ammo type or something like that. So we're just going to take the basic one for now. And what we're going to want to do is click on the basic one. So for my case, this is the basic MP5. Right-click this, and we're going to copy as new record into. It's going to pop up an editor ID right here. We don't actually really need to change this just yet, so we're just going to click OK. It's going to pop up a warning. That's not a big deal. Just click yes. And now we need to make this record and transfer it over into a new ESP. You can put it into the MP5 one, but that's not optimal for making a patch, considering it's supposed to be optional, and doing that would make it to where the mod would actually have to be updated via the main page. And we're just looking to make patches here. Things that are optional to do, things that aren't forced upon the player. So we're going to make an ESP as an ESL, as you can see I've already selected. The reason why we do this is because flagging something as an ESP and an ESL that doesn't have too many records in it, it will not take up a mod slot in your 250 something total. So doing that for a small patch like this is as optimal as you can get, I would say. So make sure it's flagged as an ESP, ESL. Click OK. And this is going to be the new file that we are creating. So for patch sake and things to be organized, I'm going to call this Randomized MP5. And this just makes it look nice and clean, so we know exactly what our mod is. And we're going to click OK. And as you see down on the bottom left, let's minimize this weapon real quick. We have a new ESP here. So this is like a mod all by itself. It's already a mod. And we need to work on it a bit. So we're going to click on it and expand it to the weapon record. And we're going to click on this weapon record. So this is the exact weapon record, model and everything, with all the data filled out from the MP5 mod that we're using. And as you can see here, it has these attachments. We're going to get into that in a bit more detail, but first, let's do some cleaning up. We're going to want to change the editor ID because it's not super clean. So what you do is you come up to the very top, typically the very first section, editor ID right here. You can click on it, right click, edit. This is essentially the name of what it's like called, the record's called, and we're going to call this the same thing, randomized MP5. All right, so now once you have that renamed, just for cleanliness sake, everything is pretty much set to go here. Now we want to close our ESP that we had made. Just hit the little minus button right here. Open up the original MP5 and go to the Object Modification tab. And again, I'm saying MP5 loosely, as in this could be any mod in the world. So load up your weapon mod or expand it. Go to your Object Modification section. Typically in the middle, it can be a little lower, and expand that. And now here's where people probably get overwhelmed. There's easily 130 different attachments here. If we just select all of them real quick, you will see and compare that there's 154 attachments here. See what's happening here is there's actually multiple variants of different or the exact same attachment. So if we look, we see MP5, and then we see MP5K. And most of these are exact duplicates. Like there's actually no difference to use them. So what I like to do is whenever I'm adding modicles, I like to sort by editor ID at the top. And what that does is that actually filters out the MP5Ks and the MP5s. So instead of having all 150, whatever it was, you can see exactly where it starts right here. And scroll down. Oops, I control clicked on accident. If you control click, you can actually individually select. And if you shift click, you can mass select. Just a little tip for you. So if I click on the bottom here, scroll all the way up to the MP5 start right there, and I shift click, you can see now I only have 91. That's only a 60-ish drop, but again, it's kind of a tedious process, so you're gonna have to get used to that. And what we're gonna do actually is I don't know why I deselected that. We're actually gonna select all of these MP5 records. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna right click and we're going to copy as new record into. And we don't need to worry about the editor IDs. We're just going to spam click through all of these. Don't worry about the warning. Just say yes. And we're going to put these into our randomized MP5 mod. Click OK. That might take a second. It says copying as new records are done. Now we are done with this MP5 mod right here. We can close it, and we don't need to fuck with it anymore. Now we need to open our randomized MP5 or randomized weapon mod, whatever you're using. So expand that. You're going to see you added this new category right here, Object Modification. So now we have a weapon, which is a randomized MP5, and now we have Object Modification, which is all of the MP5 attachments that we need to add to this randomized MP5. So I'm going to explain the attachment system now. So for this specific gun, on this specific mod, it is going to have a forearm, a sight, a magazine, a muzzle, a receiver, a stock, and a damage modification. These will be different for nearly every single weapon mod you install. So you need to really understand how these work. So I'm going to spend quite a bit of time here. So if you look at this first category where it says mod, this is the actual physical item. This is the thing, like a model in the game. If you go down, that is irrelevant. You typically can ignore this. I can't expand to see exactly what it says. Attachment point index. That doesn't really matter, so we can ignore that for now. Optional. You always want to put false in 99% of the cases, unless you're looking for extreme variability in your weapon spawns. But we're already going to have completely random attachments, so that doesn't really matter. And then the don't use all category. You always want this to be true in 99.99% of cases, because if you hit use all, then it might cause like 2 receivers to spawn or something like that. So that's like really bad, and you don't want to do that. So I would highly recommend putting this do not use all to true on every category, effectively, no matter what. I don't know why it's even there, because I've never used it. I don't think I've ever seen someone use that, and it's just kind of pointless. So what we have to do is, as you can see, I think there are 7. Let's see, there are 6. So there are 6 attachments here. And these are attachment points, right? So obviously these are right here are physical models of an actual item, right? And what we need to do is we need to actually make these, for example, this muzzle, we need to make this a category. And then we need to add all of the muzzles that can possibly spawn in this mod to that category. And then add that category to this attachment. And that would make it to where instead of this being a specific item model in the game, spawning as a forearm, it'll actually take from a pool of forearms. Instead of this very specific model, it'll take from a pool of all of them. And that's actually, it's not too complicated, it's just tedious. You're going to want to go over to your mod, object modification. Make sure you're sorting by editor ID, by the way. Make sure it's up above the arrow right here. Make sure it's pointing up. And we're going to start off by looking at the categories. So you can see we have forearm, flashlight, damage. Another thing you're going to notice right here is some of these categories you didn't even see in the original mod slots right here. Like, I don't think you see a left rail here. And that's perfectly normal. It's because sometimes they leave it for like attachments, as in building it by yourself. You have to craft it. You have to put it on the gun. It won't spawn with it ever. You can still add it. It's very easy to do. All you need to do is, you see where this includes is, you just need to right click, add, and boom. Now we have a brand new attachment slot, and it's very easy to do. And then remove is right click, remove, and you're done. So we are going to add those, or I'm probably not going to add them, but I'll show you how to add them if you get those specific cases. Like, for example, let's say, let's actually go into object modifications, sort by name to make sure we find everything. So rail left. So this rail left, we know is a rail left category, so we can actually go up, minimize this, go to our weapon again, randomized MP5, scroll down, click on add a category, and we can, we don't have one set up, but we can change this now to a rail 5, or a rail left, I mean. And that's how we would do that. We would make sure to turn this bottom one to true, but we're not going to do that right now. Let's get these categories set up. So while you're in the object modification tab in your randomized MP5 or randomized whatever gun you're making, we need to make all of these categories, as in new like loot pools, like leveled lists for a gun. And the way to do that is come up to your object modification, right click, hover over add, omod object modification, add that. Don't change this code that comes up, just click OK, and boom. Now you see we have a new item here, but there's nothing filled out in it. So we just need to fill out a couple details and this will be ready to go. I highly, highly recommend you doing this in mass. And what I mean by that is, let's say that we are on this record right here and we're editing it, right? We do all sorts of edits in here. We need to do those same edits like 5 more times. So it'd be better to just make a bunch of these preemptively. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so as you can see, I've made a lot, probably 10-ish, I think. 10, yeah. And the reason I did that is because if anything, you don't need them later on, just delete them. But making new ones once you've already done work in one of these categories is much, much more difficult. So you can never have too many. So I'm going to start off with 10, even though I don't think there's 10 categories here. And we need to start off by going into the record flag section. And let me show you actually how I did this. So as you click on these, you'll get these randomized MP5s. If you do that shift click, like I said to earlier, you hold shift and then you press click, it'll select all of these items. But you still might not be seeing this compare menu. All you have to do is right click, and then at the very top it's compare selected, and you can actually see the number of items you have selected. And it says compare selected. We're going to click that. And that's what happens here. So once you're in this page menu, you're going to want to start with record flags. We're going to right click that, edit, and we're going to make it a mod collection. That's why people call it mod cols, because it is a mod collection. And then we're going to check that. Don't check anything else. Click OK. And you see it added the mod collection item up here. And we're going to add it to all of these. And all you need to do is right click, copy to selected records. All of these selected records we have. Click OK. And it just added what we did here to all of these records. And that's why I recommend making as many categories as possible, because you can just instant CV paste to all of these categories, and it takes just a couple of seconds. The next thing we need to do is the editor ID. We need to right click it and add. And then we need to right click. Before we edit it, actually, we're going to make sure that we add it, and then we're going to copy it to selected records by right clicking the editor ID, copy to selected, all of these. Okay. Now it added all these categories. Now we need to manually name them. So remember how I said there was like sights, muzzle, all that kind of stuff, magazine, receiver. This is where we make the categories. So the first category I think we're going to make is forearm. I think those are barrels in this MP5 mod, but that's okay. So on the editor ID, click on it, right click, edit ID, and we're going to name it. So for the purposes of this tutorial and for cleanliness sake, I'm going to name it modcol. You can do underscore if you want. I actually really don't like doing that. Space MP, oh wait, not MP5, I'm sorry. Space, we're going to start with, I guess, forearm. And then that's, oops, that's how, well, my spelling sucks. Arm, there we go. This is exactly how I would do it. Modcol, forearm. Click OK. Now, you see right here, it now has a name. And now we can add all of those forearms right here to this mod right here, or to this object modification. And then we would add this modification right here that has all of the entries of forearms into our weapon. And that's how we would do it. We can actually do that right now. So if you're on your weapon, your randomized MP5 or randomized gun, whatever it is, scroll down, go to your forearm, which is right here. You can double click it, and you can type in modcol forearm. And as you can see, it popped up right there. It's highlighted right here. Add it. Enter. Boom. Now that that's added, anything we add to this modcol firearm category right here, it will spawn those random attachments. And that's exactly how we do it. Now we just have to rinse and repeat this process 1,000 times, but I'll show you how to add these categories into this in a second. Let's get the rest of these categories set up. So again, click and then shift click to mass select all these and then compare selected to see them all. And now we're going to edit the, first of all, you can edit the description right here. You can add one and you can actually edit that, but I don't really care about doing that. I don't think it's very useful. Anyone who's coming in here, doing anything in here, more than likely isn't going to use that description in the first place. It's typically only used if you're making something really complicated, like it's a really complicated mod or model or something that you're using a record and you need some explanation to understand like how it works. But generally this is a super basic mod, so you really don't need the description. The next category is the data tab. So we're going to have to right click that and add, and this created this whole section here. And before we go any further, we're actually going to right click it and copy to select records and select all of our records. Okay. So now they all have the data tab because they're all going to need it. So including count 0, that's fine. Property count 0, form type. We need to change this form type right here. So right click that, edit, and we're going to make it a weapon form type. And then right click, copy to selected records. Okay. Now they're all weapon form types. That is very important. If you don't do that, then this will not work. So as you can see, we have modcol forearm right here, and then we have attachment point. I'll explain how to do that in a minute, but let me show you how to make the categories. We have the includes item right here. If you click on this includes category and not any of these, just the includes one, you can right click and add. And this adds where you can actually put the attachments. The mod would be the attachment, minimum level, which would be what level it spawns at. We're going to do 1. You could do any level right here. You could do, I don't know, 99 if you wanted to. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do 1 because that's what I like. And if you're making patches that are going to go on my Nexus page, I will not accept your mod if you are, or I will not accept your patch if you do not put the minimum level at 1. And as for optional, you would just leave that as false. Unless you want that in your mod, but I personally, I don't. And if you're, again, making a patch for the mod collections I'm making, don't put that, please. So now we have this set up. We can actually copy this includes right here to the other records. So boom, now they all have it. Now, I know these categories are going to be plentiful, so we're going to actually add just a bunch. We're just going to spam these out. Just right-click add, right-click add, right-click add, right-click add, right-click add, right-click add. Now we have a bunch. This is going to make doing things so much easier because, again, it's much more tedious to fill out all these records one time than and then deleting them like that, rather than filling them out and then, oh no, I don't need them, and just deleting them, or, you know, needing one and having to come back in and fill it back out for each of the separate categories. So make more than you need so you don't have to come back later. That's my suggestion to you. And the only thing you have to change is this to true. You have to go down manually and change all of these items right here to true. Click enter. Makes things a little easier. Or you can just spam click. That works too. All right, once all those are set to true, I actually forgot to put them to minimum level, so we'll do that. Now I have all of them set to level 1, minimum level 1, and everything set to true. And now I'm going to come back up here to the main includes, not the includes 0, 1, 2, or 3. I'm going to go to the main includes, the very first one, which is mod cool forearm. Right click that category, copy to selected records, all of my records here. Now we just mass added these. This makes it so much easier. Instead of having to click that button 9 times, 90 times, 9 times 10, 90 times, we had to click it 9 times, which is so much more efficient. So I highly, highly recommend doing it this way. So we have our mod cool forearm set up. Now we need to get the attachment point, which is right here, that null reference I referenced earlier. I said we would talk about it. We're going to talk about those now. So we need to find the MP5 forearm category, and we can take any one of these right here. Click on it. You're going to see this data section. In this data section, you're going to see some information, but the big thing that we want right here is the attachment point. This is letting the item know where to go, where to be put in the actual physical world or on the gun. So the only thing you need to do is click on this attachment point, Control C, go back up to your mod cool forearm on the attachment point section, and we're going to go ahead and add that. Boom. Now everything that added here will go to this specific attachment point. And all we have to do now is, while selected on our forearm, we can control click, like I said earlier, selecting all of these forearms so we can mass edit these. This makes things so much easier to handle. And as you can see, the mod cool is on the left, and all of the attachments we need to be adding to this mod are on the right side. And to do that, you just need to go up to the form ID section right here. You can click on it if you want, Control C. Come down here to the include section where the null references are, where we created those earlier. Double click, Control V, enter. Rinse, repeat. You just click, Control V, enter. Rinse, repeat. Alrighty, so now that we are done adding all of the attachments, all of the barrels here, all of the categories or the references that we didn't use, we can just right click and we can remove them. Very easy peasy. Now I'm going to show you how to make one more category, and then you can get into trying it yourself. So again, click on one of these categories. You're going to want to go to the editor ID, right click, edit. This one's going to be, I guess we'll do just real quick, these damage categories you don't actually need to do. You need to do one of them, as in you need to make the damage category. So for example, mod cool space damage, and then you can add that. We're gonna make that little neater, mod cool damage. But you don't need all these references. You only take the base one because you really don't want your NPCs spawning with 99% additional MP5 damage. So that's a little tip. Do not do these damages whenever you're doing your patches. And all of these null references, we only need one, so we can actually just remove all of them except for one. All right. And we can add this damage one right here. First of all, you see the attachment slot, which is right here. We're actually going to take that, Control C, and put it over here, Control V. This include section, which is the item mod right here, which is the form ID. We're going to take that, Control C. We're going to add it to this null reference, Control V, enter. Boom. Now the damage one is done. So now we have forearm done, which adds all the forearms to the game. Damage, which adds all the damage ones. We're going to make this a bit more neat. Actually, right click rather than spam click. We're going to change that to a capital just to make things look a little better. All right, so I'm going to do one real category for you. And actually, we're going to do a category that wasn't actually listed on the natural NP5 right here. So as you can see, there is no left rail, no right rail. There's no rail top, rail bottom. None of that. No flashlight. So we're going to do a one that isn't naturally on there. So click on one of these empty slots. You go to editor ID, edit the ID. We're going to make this mod cool, and it'll be rail left. Just maybe capitalize that. Rail left to make things look neat. Enter. And now what you got to do is click all of the rail lefts. So we're going to take that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. These are all the rail lefts. And we're going to take the attachment point from this one, Control C, right here, Control V, enter. And then the references, we just take the form IDs right here, Control C, and we put them in the include section. Very, very easy to do. All right, now that we've added all of these rail lefts, we can delete all of these unused entries. So now we have forearm, damage, and rail left all done. Let's go ahead and add those to our weapon by going to our weapon, randomized MP5. Scroll down, and we added a, what were the categories we added? Damage. So we're going to come here, we're going to hover over the damage area, which is right here, and we're going to change that to our damage, which is, damage, yep, right there. Enter. So now that's our damage, and then we need to actually add a category. So over in the include section, right-click, add. And then you're going to want to click on this, and, oh, sorry, click on the new record that entered, and make sure to put this to true right here. And this mod collection right here, you're going to want to make that mod col, and it's rail left. Enter. Boom. Everything's done. And you're going to change these categories as you get them all done. And then add those. So that's exactly how you add categories that aren't there in the first place. But that's pretty much all I'm going to show you. There's really no point in me showing you this incredibly tedious process of doing every single one of these. I just showed you the very basics of what you need to get these started. All right, so real quick, I want to talk about the standards I'm going to set for people that are making patches. First of all, if you do make a patch, reach out to me and let me know you're making it before you are almost done, because I don't want to make a patch that you're making. It'd be a waste of time, your time and my time. Second of all, the standards. I first of all want to see all of these starting words to be capitalized whenever you make them. I want it to be flagged as an ESL. It must be flagged as an ESL. Do not flag it as a full ESP. Stop doing that. If you're going to make a patch, do it right. Please name it randomized, like I did here, and then the gun. So if you're doing it for the MK18, which I'll be doing regardless, put it as a randomized MK18. Do not take a special variant of the weapon and make it as the randomized attachments. That's just pointless. Just take the base part of the gun. So instead of taking the MP5K one, take the MP5. Obviously, I think you can pretty much interchangeably do these here, but some specials are different. They have different keywords. They work differently. Maybe they have different spacings for attachment points, so it might not work exactly. So please just use the base weapon. So if there's like an MK18 and then an MK18 AP supermodel, choose the MK18 plain variant. And then the last thing I really need everybody to do is, if you're going to make a patch, please, please, please include all of the categories. Don't skip one because you're lazy. Don't skip one because you don't want it in there. For example, let's say like you just skipped muzzles, like you just didn't add a muzzle to it. No, don't make a patch if you're going to not do it properly. Do the whole thing. Do the forearms, the flashlights, damage, the magazine, the muzzle, the rail left, the rail lower, the rail right, the receiver. Do the sights. Do all of those. And don't skip any. So don't do like just these two suppressors and then a standard. Do all of them. Even if they look like they're the exact same item, do them, please. And to send me these patches once you've made them, and you've sent me a message before you're done with it, so I know you're working on it, you can send me the raw file, whether it's compressed or unzipped. I don't really care. DM me on Discord. My name is Your Boy Zach, capital Y, and then it's 4109. So that's Your Boy Zach 4109, and add me on Discord, and you will receive credits. So everybody who sends me a patch, first of all, I'll give you a big ass thank you, because this is so important to me, and I love the community coming together and adding, support for things that really should have been added in the first place, but we're gonna fix it. So Yeah, so you guys will be getting your credit in the name. So at the very end of my mods that I make on Nexus, I always do a credit section, and I will highlight your names in big, bold, italic, colored letters. If you have anything like a Patreon or a YouTube channel, let me know. Give me a link if you made the mod, and I will put it down there, and I will put it in the credit section so people can check you out if needed. But that's about it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.